Hello and welcome back to a new song review. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Between the Buried and Me single, Fix the Error, from their upcoming studio album, Colors 2. I've been a fan of Between the Buried and Me for a while now. I got on the train around the time the Coma Ecliptic album came out back in 2015. But out of all of their discography, the albums I find myself returning to the most are Colors and The Great Misdirect. In fact, I was actually going to see one of their shows touring, I think it was touring The Great Misdirect as sort of like a 10th anniversary thing before the pandemic scuppered all of it. I like the two Automata albums, but they didn't necessarily do it for me the way the Coma Ecliptic album did, even though there's some phenomenal tracks on both of those little collections. So while I was optimistic about a sequel to Colors, I was also a little bit reserved in my worries that, it might not do me like it might not wow me like Colors did. But I have to say, this track is one of the best things I've heard out of them in a long time. I understand there are some guest musicians on here. I think Mike Portnoy's on here. I think somebody who used to be from Animals as Leaders is on here. But to me, I think the standout of the track is actually the keys. The keys are doing some really interesting things. I also like the changes. There's a lot of changes in this track. Very frenetic. It's not quite metalcore. It's not quite what they used to do. Or maybe it's not what I would define as metalcore. I'm going to have like 50 metal dudes down in the comments being like, actually, that is exactly what metalcore is. But I really like that, I was seeing somebody complaining in a review that it just sounds like a bunch of middle eights copy and pasted together. But to me, at least, I liked that about Between the Buried and Me. With Colors, that was something I liked about the original Colors, is that there were so many shifts and changes and random bits. That was part of what drew me to their music, because most bands who do prog and who do metal, they just they do metal versions of the old prog stuff, It's why, as good as some of those bands are, I can never get into a lot of prog metal. But Between the Buried and Me, at least in what I would consider their greatest period in the late 2000s and the early to mid 2010s, were really good at doing that in a way that hit all of those prog notes, but it was original enough and it was new enough and it was fresh enough that it made me interested. It made me want to hear more and, learn more about the band. And this is the first new thing I've heard from them in a while that really does that. And furthermore, and there's been a lot of singles this year that to me have not sounded like singles. They have sounded like deep cuts. And that's what this sounds like. This doesn't sound like a single to me. This sounds like they looked at the album and they were like, okay, yeah, that's the most commercially accessible thing that we can throw out. Like, that's the shortest thing. You can give them a taster, because it would not surprise me at all, because the original Colors was like this. If this is a track that flows between one track and another track, it feels like it is, because you can listen to tracks from Colors separately. You can. I don't know how well necessarily they all work. I mean, Prequel to the Sequel sounds amazing, but I don't necessarily know that I would want to cut the rest of it out. Colors to me at least has always been an album that works best as one piece of music with like 25 different movements and so forth, That's the way I listen to that album. It's the way it sounds good to me, and I would imagine with this being a sequel, that's going to be the way this album works, too. But back to what I was saying earlier, I'm rambling a little bit here. The keys were what really impressed me here. And the drumming, too, but the keys, they're not quite the central stage, but they're all throughout the track. They're used very well. They're used very tastefully. They augment the track, they blend with the track, but they're very sort of almost 70s keyboards. They sound like you know, the keys that would be in, like, not quite Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but a prog band of that era. And I like that because I like that keyboard sound. A critique that some people have of the, you know, what I was saying is my favorite period of Between the Buried and Me is that they're very, very clean. They're very, very of the 2000s. You know, everything is as sharp and shimmering and pristine, and there's really no grit to it. And this doesn't have much grit, but it has I would say a little bit more grit than some of those albums, which again is not a critique I necessarily have. I actually kind of like that really clean 2000s metal sound, but you know, taste is taste, and I know everybody's opinions vary. You know, I don't have a ton to say here. The lyrics I liked. They were fun. I don't really pay that much attention to Between the Buried and Me lyrics, or metal lyrics in general, you know. Sometimes they're good. Most of the time they're not. I don't know. I probably just pissed off like half the people watching this video. But anyway, that has been my woefully inadequate review of Fix the Error by Between the Buried and Me. I hope you enjoy the video. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, y'all, so we can grow the channel and maybe, just maybe, we can hit 600 subs by the end of the year. I'll see you all later.